I think that's it. Yeah. All right, good. So, welcome my team of budding alchemists. I'm going to stretch you kind of quite a bit today, make you work and make you groundwork in some things, okay? Because it's better. It's better to work to it this way than it is to just go, this is what this means, and this is what that means, and this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. All right, that's the school approach to it. An esoteric school has to take a different way into it. So, as usual, I'll begin with what questions did you come up with from last week? I see clarity stirring already. I'm sorry, Hannah. I see Hannah stirring. Yeah.
Okay, we put together just a few, not that many.
Right.
The first one was how to get at the difference between evocation and invocation.
Didn't we ask this last time?
Yeah, but we didn't think we went into it deep enough.
All right. Okay. Okay. Repeat the question.
How to get at the difference between evocation and invocation?
It's simple. It's very simple. Okay. You already know how to do it. Presumably you've watched a movie or gone to a play or even a television program. Yeah. In the past. Have you ever come out of a movie theater feeling as though it altered you in some way? Right? You come out of a movie theater, something very powerful that you see, and like the world doesn't seem the same. You walk out of the darkness of the theater and into the lobby, and you've just had this experience where you've become completely enmeshed and engrossed in what the movie was about and what was becoming of it. And you walk out and things just feel weird. Have you ever had that feeling before? Huh? That's invocation. All right. You didn't know you were doing it at the time, but you were invoking the movie. Okay. Now, evocation has to do with being able to sit and being a conscious observer of the processes it causes in you, as well as what's going on the screen. But you walk out of the theater and you are richer perhaps for the experience, but you're not altered for the experience. Richer from the standpoint of perhaps it made you think about things, and perhaps you observed yourself thinking about certain scenarios, while you're watching the movie unfold. Do you understand the difference? So what it takes is the ability to separate yourself from yourself, to be able to watch the organism have an experience, watch the organism process things. That's evocation because it happens outside of you. Okay. It does process. I mean, you're a processing machine. You're never going to be able to help it. Okay. But the difference is a matter of perspective. You as an entity are watching this being experience whatever it is. Okay. Whereas if you take you as an entity, merge it with your being, and then merge it with the experience, that's invocation. You're pulling it all into yourself. All right. Now you can begin to see the dangers of it. Yeah. It's not safe to go into a movie like, I don't know what, the Exorcist, right? Back in the 70s or whatever, whenever that came out. It's not safe, is it? If you don't have the discipline to be able to separate that out and almost look at it like an objective scientific experience, right? Or like you're watching what your complex process is when it's subjected to that kind of frequency in the astrolight.
Yeah.
It's not safe to be in that. It's not even safe to go to church in that. Huh?
Yeah, when you're dealing with that kind of thing, you need to be there as an observer.
You have to have the technology to be able to do it, don't you?
Yeah.
Right. Listen, I'll even go so far as to say this. The piece of wood or cardboard and the little planchet and the printing or the engraving, right, that people have on the Ouija board. There's nothing dangerous about those, right? There's nothing dangerous about ink or carvings. There's nothing dangerous about the piece of wood itself or, you know, the device that they use to go around the board, right? The dangerous thing is how the person is using their complex.
Yes.
You see, whether you play with a Ouija board or not, you're susceptible to the same thing. You know, people are like, oh, no Ouija boards, right? As if it's the Ouija board that's doing it. It's the problem is with the person and how they're taking the energy. You can throw away the Ouija board and still be the same in the same susceptible state of invocation, and you know, forget the Ouija board. So it's just a piece of wood. You know, this, how you use this, all of it. I'm trying to draw kind of how you use all of it. That's the difference between invocation and evocation. Now, when would you want to use invocation? What did I say last time? I said it's okay to mum what?
Yourself.
Your future development.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't mum yourself as you are, but mum your future development. That's safe. Okay. Now, why would I say something like that when as I say most of the other things that you might want to mum might not be safe, at least until you have the discipline to be able to evoke, be in a mumming state while evoking something. Why is that safe?
Will it be to do with the power of what it is? Because it's because it's to do with yourself.
Yeah.
Then
Sure.
it's not going to be beyond your ability to stop anything unfortunate getting in.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if something unfortunate gets in, then hopefully it offers a correction so that you don't become that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can think of it this way. We all agree that something like sulfuric acid or hydrochloric acid are generally considered a dangerous chemical, aren't they? Right. But if you take sulfuric acid, a spoonful, got to be careful what kind of spoon you use, but a spoonful of sulfuric acid and pour it into more sulfuric acid, what happens? Nothing dangerous about that at all, is there? Right? Because it's same. It's okay to mum same. Now, what this means in the bigger picture is that it's also okay to mum creational influences. For example, mumming care. Care is a creational influence. You showed up on the planet with some modicum of care anyway. Right? You showed up with patience. You showed up with understanding, humility, hope, belief, charity, radiate, life. Yeah, the 9 qualities. That's all kind of the hodgepodge of what makes a human at level 4 in the astrolight anyway. So is it okay to mum those sorts of things? Sure, why not? And mumming is the same as invocation. Yeah. Who knows the reference as far as like Shakespeare's mummers? Do you have the reference?
I didn't. Shakespeare.
So the band of troops that would go around and do the Shakespearean plays, right? They would travel from place to place. And you can see still references of this in the way they're reenacted in some television programs and whatnot. I won't go there, but what they would do is they would enter a kingdom or a village or a city, you know, as this band of troops, and they would become sensitive to the radiation. What was the community experiencing? What were they subject to? You know, what was the kingdom like? What was the rulership like? What was, you know, what were the primes? What were the events going on in history? They didn't go around and ask questions. They just opened themselves up to it. They mummed it. They invoked it. And then they would go put on what would appear to almost be like a spontaneous or impromptu play, helping that society, helping that city or that town to see themselves as they really are. Yeah, because the mummers, here's an interesting perception. The mummers were actually the city, right? They're the ones engrossed in it. The Shakespearean actors were not actually mumming, although we say, you know, the Shakespearean mummers. But what they were doing was they were causing an evocation. They did a play. They could objectively watch themselves be like, you know, the king, right? The tyrant king, or the, you know, cowering knave, or, you know, all of these sorts of things. Yeah. Or they would enact such crass things. Yeah. Like these funny bits about flatulence and, you know, all these other sorts of things when they wanted to humiliate somebody. And you know what I'm saying, right? You kind of get the idea of this sort of play. They were doing mumming from an evocational standpoint, though, because they still maintained themselves, hopefully, if they had the technology. The real ones in danger were the people going to see the play, and so that they could go and look and they could laugh at themselves or be frightened of themselves. Or, gave them a objective perspective of what it looks like to walk into their town and become one of them. All right, does that help clear up some of the ideas behind evocation and invocation?
Yeah.
And why certain ways of invocation or mumming would be considered dangerous without the skill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you've all been in meetings in the past where someone, you know, rolls a cigarette, takes a drag off of it, right, and begins to limp around the room and talk in a certain way and blah, blah, and so on and so forth. Okay, now what is that? That's unconscious mumming. Sorry, NZ, you don't have the reference, but you don't need it for this. I'm pointing something out. Right? I'm not talking about the man himself. I'm talking about those who impressed themselves upon that way. They weren't their own person.
No.
You must step out and be your own person. If you're going to stand on this floor and work with people, you have to work with people from what is you, not what is an imitation of something. Yeah. So can open up all kinds of technology, couldn't you, with this? But anyway, hopefully that answered your question a bit.
Yeah.
Good. What's the next one?
The sweeping that goes over the planet, is that what wakes people up at 3:30 in the morning?
The what that sweeps over the planet?
The elementals that sweep across the planet to
No,
clean it.
it's silver rain.
Oh, okay.
Silver rain. Yeah. Go outside and the birds are going bananas in the trees right before the sun comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, ask yourself, does that really come from the sun or not? Doesn't.
Right.
It happens right before the sun, just like, you know, the yin yang symbol, like the lightest is right before. Yeah. The camera's thinking I'm asking it to do something. Got to gesture very
hands in your
tightly.
pockets.
Yeah, right. Tie them up behind my back. Yeah. But that's the silver rain. Just like when you're like in the evening.
Yeah.
That's that gold fog that comes across the land. It's the effect of the day. You see, silver rain is the effect of the night. It kind of like gathers in a bank of force, and then right before the sun comes up, silver rain comes down on the planet. Right. But that was the effect of the night. That has nothing to do with the sun coming up. The sun then comes to counterbalance it, and then you get all this gold force collecting in the atmosphere, and nighttime comes, and it sweeps across the land and makes things go to sleep, unless you're a nocturnal creature, in which case your power systems are reversed.
Yeah.
You know, we're powered by silver. We're anesthetized by gold. It's the opposite for those.
Yeah, what that question was to do with is that there seems to be more and more people talking about being broken up. He's gone.
One moment.
Yeah.
Deconfuse this camera.
Yeah.
Okay. More and more people
are talking about waking up at around 3:30
Yeah.
Now, as you're saying, as we've seen, this silver rain is around dawn time or just before dawn.
Yeah.
So because of the time, because of the seasons, that happens at a different time to this 3:30 thing.
Okay, so here's the thing, I
We
guess.
were, yeah,
The way to
so
the way
yeah,
into this. Oh, go ahead. I'll let you
yeah.
finish.
What we were thinking is that we've heard that there's this cleaning that goes on during the night. And
Sevenfold.
we were, that sweeps across the planet during the early hours of the night, and was trying to work out, is that an elemental thing? If it is, does this tie up with this thing that more and more people are experiencing, this waking up at about 3:30 in the morning?
Let's elevate your perspective on something first.
Different.
Please,
Yeah, sure.
let's elevate the perspective on something. I want you to think of it from a so you're talking about the sevenfold frequencies, right? The rainbow that we go through.
No, that's
think you are,
mostly
but-
the sleep cycle. Yeah.
Okay.
What's been explained to me in my early years is that during the night, as part of a cleaning process, the planet has for itself, and therefore for life on the planet, that around about between, say, 2:30 and 3:30, there is this thing that sweeps across the land, and it cleans things up. Now, it hasn't been explained thoroughly.
Okay.
So just
No.
trying to understand what these other cleaning cycles are.
Those are planetary influences, and it doesn't sweep across the land. What's the best way to describe it? The planet is rotating underneath its influence. Okay. Now,
Right,
those
so it's
influences
stationary in the planet.
mostly stationary. It's also in response to the sun itself, but it's
Right.
mostly stationary. But it is the influence of those 7 planets. And so you're going to get, depending on, like, if there are oppositions in the planets, if there are concurrences in the planets, their forces and all this type of stuff, you'll get various phenomenon. Almost without limit, you'll get various phenomenon.
Right.
Now, you can dictate, and we'll get into this in a couple of weeks here, but you can also figure out the time of day for each of those influences. And I'll show you how to do the actual calculations of it. But you could go through, I would suspect that probably at this point in time, if people are waking up around 3 in your neck of the woods, then it's probably Mercury's in the place to do that. Yeah, but it won't last. It won't be forever. It's not like, oh, now we all wake up at 3. It's just that Mercury happens to be in the right place to do that. Cause sleeplessness, restlessness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the way that you're describing this is, it sounds that it's not an internal planetary thing, it's an external.
It has to be external.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because that's what we're in response to. Now, the birds chirping, that's the silver and gold, okay? But you've also got, the funny thing is, if you take lunar light and try and run it through a prism, you don't get the same 7-fold spectrum. Did you know? You ever tried that on a really bright night? Okay, get a magnifying glass and a prism if you have one. If you don't, they're really, I've got a couple of them. They're really inexpensive on like Amazon or whatever. But get a prism, focus the moonlight through, and look at the spectrum and see what it's missing. You'll be quite surprised about the. I don't want to give it away, but I do.
I'll give it away. No.
Yeah, right. Okay, I won't.
Let's try. Yeah.
Ah, but I want to, but I won't.
No. Okay.
You know what it is in the day? It's the red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
Yeah.
At night, it's not. Anyway, I'll leave it. Okay.
Okay.
Make real experimenters out of you.
By
Come back
Prism.
and buy Prism.
By Prism.
Note to
Not
self,
buy,
Prism.
but buy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. What's up? What's next? Did that help with that, or at least put you on the path
Yeah.
of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we've spoken about the videos. Yeah, yeah. I can't hang on. Hold up.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's too soon.
Yeah.
Too soon to ask about that. We were, we got about working into the earth, air, fire, and water, and that's where we got the incense stick and the candle out, and
Yeah.
then I did the daft thing with the tuning fork, which is why we haven't got a great deal down today, because I went a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that one?
We practiced looking at the energy around a plant
Oh yeah.
and also around each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Talking about
that was-
seeing electrically.
yeah.
Yeah.
And do you know what we mean by seeing electrically? No. Okay.
I haven't experienced
It's
that yet.
yeah, it's a specific terminology. It basically has to do with like seeing. You've heard of the aura, yeah? Heard of like the human aura, or the kind of electromagnetic fields around things like plants and whatnot, crystals and whatever.
Yes.
There's a specific discipline in learning how to see those, and generally. Boy, we should really do a whole course on it, but this is what they're talking about. Okay. I will actually put it in the queue to do a course on how to see electrically and how to begin to wake up those sorts of faculties. In
Yeah.
essence, though, you can begin to practice just by looking sort of through and above people. Okay, sort of like this 1 to 3 inches above and around them. Easiest part to see is what's called the etheric region. You might see like a purple haze, or even in the beginning, just what looks like a difference between the area close to the head versus far out. You can do it with plants and whatnot as well. But the idea is to look through it like you're looking long distance and let your peripheral vision pick up on it. You can play around with it, but we'll do a whole thing on it, okay? Explain the
Yeah.
actual mechanics of it. I think that would be best. I just don't want to do it injustice.
No. What we could do is get together one Wednesday night, Hensley, and take you through it
Yeah, please do.
as far as we can, and that'll be like an intro, a platforming, and then when you take it further, it'll be good. Yeah.
That sounds very good.
Okay. Yeah. We'll email after.
Hannah, Mark, and Sam, do you all see astrally as well, or no?
I'm not
Not me.
Not that we're aware of.
No.
Okay, right. Then you don't.
Yeah.
You'd be aware of it. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
What do you mean
So
by
that's a training I can take you all through, is how to see astrally. Okay.
Yeah.
It's different than electrical.
Yeah, but it'll be good to go through the electrical first,
Yeah.
because there's things that we've recently learned that hadn't been taught before.
Oh, really? Like what?
The importance of relaxation.
Hmm.
The importance of not minding if you don't get it straight away.
Sure.
Some breathing exercises, and the important thing, this peripheral vision right now, that if you get it to a certain point and then you can't see your fingers, bring it back in and try a bit more.
Right.
Then,
you're talking about exercises.
Yeah.
Sure.
To cause that peripheral vision to get wider, and yeah, it was, yeah, it's opened up a great deal. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this just as a tantalizer, okay?
Go on then.
When you see astrally, you also see behind you.
No, we haven't done that.
All right, good.
Okay.
All right. So, did I miss the question, or is it answered?
No, it's been answered. Yeah.
What was
Okay.
it? What was the question?
No, we didn't actually have a question. We were just letting.
Oh yeah,
Yes, no, that
to
was-
say about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was one really interesting thing that happened. That when Hannah was standing against the wall and we were looking at Etheric and how it was opening up and then getting smaller, you then did turning round, yeah, to see how we could see.
Yeah.
And I can't remember which way round. I think it was when you turned clockwise, you were able to turn quite easily. When you tried to turn anti-clockwise, you then got all balance started playing
Yeah,
up.
it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's experimenting, playing with it to see what happens, and
Absolutely.
not minding if weird things happen, like you almost falling over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's the right attitude. That's the right way into this work, is that
Yes.
that experimentation with things within reason.
Yeah.
Right. I have to put that within reason in here because in the Middle Ages, you literally got people, ingesting spoonfuls of mercury, or one. Can I say moron? One moron.
yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Used to demonstrate the affinity of silver with mercury by putting a silver dollar in his mouth and dipping his toe into a pool of mercury, and then eventually taking it out and showing people that it had become coated. Yeah. Now, the reason I say moron is because it's moronic. He's poisoned his
Mercury's not
body in
good
order
for
to prove a point. To show that. Now, of course, it did work. Unfortunately for him, also killed him in the end. So always gotta experiment within reason. Any experiments that, well, just be reasonable. That's all.
Yeah.
There's no rules. Just be reasonable. Yeah. Anyway, okay.
Yes.
That. Okay. Before we've drawn it, can you see this one? It goes hot, cold, wet, dry, and then I've got the symbols for the 4 elements around it. This is how we've done it before.
Okay.
Can you see this well enough?
It's very small. It would be good if you could.
Top bar. I'll post it.
Yeah.
Top bar is hot, cold. Okay.
So we got H, C. Yeah.
HC, right? And then you've got W on the left from your perspective here, and D, wet and dry. Okay.
Yeah.
And then in the upper right quadrant, you have the symbol for fire, which is the upward pointing triangle.
Yeah.
All right. In the lower right quadrant, you have earth. Lower left quadrant, you have the symbol for water. And in upper right, you've got air. Symbol for air is an upward pointing triangle with a line through it. It caps off. Like the letter A, capital letter A, with completing the triangle. All right.
Okay.
Now we're going to shift this because it's not actually very useful to look at it as though it's a physical cross. What really belongs on the physical cross are not the forces that cause it. In other words, hot, cold, wet, dry. Those need to be shifted to what's known as the solar cross or the electrical cross this way, okay, to see what occurs between them. And so what you end up with is this diagram here, where I've got the solar cross in the middle, in other words, an X, anytime you come across the X, right, a solar cross like this as opposed to like this, it has to do with something in the unseen worlds. All right, so the forces at play behind something, whereas this has to do with the manifestation of it. And so on the solar cross, you've got one bar going wet to dry here. All right, and then hot to cold here. Okay, and that's what this cross is in the middle. Then around all of it, you've got at the top, you've got fire, which is sitting in between the vectors of hot and dry. All right, you've got earth sitting in between dry and cold. Water sitting between wet and cold. It's the downward triangle.
Yeah.
And air, which sits between wet and hot.
Yeah.
Then in the middle, you've got arid leading to dry. You've got cool leading to cold. You've got humid leading to wet. And you've got warm leading to hot. So what I'm trying to demonstrate with this diagram is that there are, not only are there forces at play, you know, you've got this kind of, if it's hot, if it's just very, very hot, right? Then you've got this interplay going on here of these ones. But if it's warm, then it's just a little bit of this. It's almost like vectors, yeah, graphing vectors. If you can go back to your school days of that, yeah, you got like X and Y coordinates in both the positive and negative vectors.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's your turn. Okay, what's your question?
So that square is the, yeah, drawing on the left turned 45 degrees.
You're right. Yeah, correct.
So it's
but a little bit different. It's actually turned 45 degrees this way, isn't it? 45 degrees to the left.
Yeah.
Correct.
Anti-clockwise, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you make of it? I want you to get on your groundworking hats now. What do you make of this? I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do any of you smoke or have smoked? No, never? All right.
You did be on the sofa once.
Just the once.
When you were about 8.
One puff, and that was it.
This is probably a terrible analogy then, but you know why they have humidors. I'm gonna just tell you, I'm gonna unlock something for you to get you on the track of it, okay? A humidor, like if you go to buy a cigar or pipe tobacco or anything like that, they keep it in a humidor. They don't keep it in a bucket of water, do they? Right? If the cigars get dried out, they don't douse them with water. They put them in a humid environment. These two can't mix, you see. Let's say, okay, from a standpoint of how people run, how people operate, you've got 4 natures. People tend to either be fire, earth, water, or air. What's a fire type of person? I'm not talking about astrological sign, but just what would you expect from a fire person? Energetic, vigorous, yeah. What would you expect from an earth person?
Slow and thoughtful.
Yeah, not just slow and thoughtful, but stability. You would expect someone with a fire personality or even an air personality to have a bit of a mercurial nature, easy to change. Just it's a matter of perspective, I guess, how much it is. Because air and fire are both on the same upward pointing triangle, just one's greater and lesser. Yeah, water and earth. Water, you would expect someone to be, if they had a water personality, to be readily adaptable. Where do you want to go for dinner? I don't know, whatever sounds good to you. That's a water answer, isn't it? I'm going to flow into whatever it is, whatever container you provide. That's water. Okay. Air, God, there's a great scene in I think it's the Disney's Jungle Book, I believe, where you've got two vultures sitting on a tree branch, and they're trying to figure. I know I shouldn't have done that.
Should have done that.
Okay, two vultures. Just imagine my hands sitting on a tree branch.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to have like T-Rex arms and just illustrate here like this. Two vultures sitting on a branch, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to go do next. Right?
Yeah.
And one of them's like, "So what you want to do?" And the other one's like, "Well, I don't know. What you want to do?" And he goes, "Well, I don't know. What you want to do?" And they sit for a little while. "So what you want to do?" "Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do?" You'll have to look it up. It's really funny. It goes on and on and on and on for like ever. That's two air people talking. Right? Funny thing that they're birds. That's two air people talking. They have no containment whatsoever. Okay. So do you understand these ideas? Now, there are sicknesses that go along with this. If you have a fever and a cough, you can see what element you're in, right? That kind of hot and dry sort of thing. If your nose is running and you got the shivers, you can see what element that's in. You see, I want you to take away from this that I'm not talking about fire, or water, which, by the way, let me ask you a question. I presume, since you're proper British, that you drink tea, not coffee, generally, right?
Both.
Both, okay, right. So,
yeah.
how do you like your tea? How do you like your coffee? We'll stick with that because people don't forget. Well, you could have iced coffee, but I'm talking about like this. How do you suppose Pierce likes his coffee? Like air, earth, water, or fire? Hmm.
I don't know how to describe it
Ah.
because it's strong and black how you have it.
I'm not talking about whether I take it with cream or not.
Right.
I'm not talking about that. Can you say that Pierce likes his coffee like air?
No.
Yeah,
Would
you
it?
can.
Wet and warm.
Wet and hot. Yeah. Right? That's this. If you look at it here, that's that, isn't it? Right? So yeah, I like my coffee like air. And if we went into the
Air.
You said the Pierce likes his coffee wet and warm.
Next time you go into a restaurant, unless it's the alchemical coffee shop, right? How do you like your coffee? Yeah, tell them like air. See if they can figure it out, right? Or wet and warm, and who knows what they'll think, but yeah.
Wet and warm. Yeah.
Huh? Okay, my idea, the thing behind the humidor is that if it gets too dry, they don't just pour a bucket of water on it, right? The cigars get too dry. They don't come in, or they don't soak them in water. They put air, which is wet, wet and warm. Okay, steam. They put vapor into the air. The point in that is that if you decide, look, first of all, the goal is to get here. Okay, the goal of personal development, when you're speaking from an elemental standpoint, is to get in the middle. If you find yourself down here, you don't go sprinkle fire in. They self-annihilate. They're exact opposites. You have the choice. If you find yourself here and you want to become more balanced, you have to go through either this way or this way. And so you have a decision to make. You can say, I will either take the air path or the earth path. And then once you increase this a little bit, then you can get up into this quadrant.
I just spotted it's getting a bit dark, so
Yeah, go ahead.
turn on.
I'll wait for you.
Yeah, cheers. Oh. Yeah, ready? Yeah, right, much better. Marvelous. Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Right.
I'm just getting you in the territory. I'm not going to explain anything to you. I'm just going to give you a couple of the ground rules that you can't go from this to this. You have to either walk around the circle one way or another.
Gotcha.
Okay. Take this into any kind of situation where you have two things opposing each other. You know, one of the best ways to negotiate is to what? Find a common ground. Isn't it? You have a different position from someone else. Yeah. You're diametrically opposed in beliefs. You don't just sit there and fight and fight and fight and fight and fight about those diametrically opposed beliefs. What you do is you walk around the quadrant and you find something that you do have in common. Okay. What do water and fire have in common? We've got these two kind of, you know, like that meet at this. Do you understand what I'm saying? I didn't explain that correctly. This is one of their commonalities. They can both get there. You understand? Fire can get to earth. Water can get to earth. Or air. Okay, come on. What is it causing you? What are you starting to see with this? Huh?
It's causing a bit of confusion's wrong. It's, I can understand what it is that the importance of this is. At the moment, I can't think how I can apply this because I can't get my head round what all the dynamics at play is.
Okay, so I don't often suggest people memorize things, but in this case, it might be useful to be able to draw that diagram from memory.
Okay.
Okay, I would suggest that it's not so complex, but to be able to integrate it into yourself to the point where if you were given a blank sheet of paper or a chalkboard, you could actually reconstruct that.
Okay.
Because it's going to get you on the frequency of what these are actually about. Now, I just said, how do I like my coffee? Like air. What I was really driving at is that you need to begin to look at everything in your life, everything in your surroundings, and including inside yourself, and put them into one of those boxes. They will always fit into one of those boxes.
Okay.
Okay. Except the sexual center. Now, why does he say that? Right? Because we've in our other classes we talk about the centers.
Yeah.
Which one would be air? Which exclude the sexual center. All right, we're just dealing with the thinking, the moving, the instinctive, and the emotional.
Emotional?
No.
Okay. No,
actually, okay. Listen. Why? Why?
Until you say yeah. Huh?
Why? Don't accept my word for it. Why? Argue it. Why would you say emotional? And by the way, Mark, this is going to tell you something about the development you need to do. Because if you think that air is the emotional center, then that shows you where your energy is out of whack. All right.
Okay.
We all have it. Yeah.
I like the way
every single one of you. Is going to put them in different categories, something in the wrong category. Okay. But it's a good self-diagnostic. Don't get personal about it. Just
no. I mean, I do on certain things, but on that one,
not on this. Good.
Didn't. I just was, just these phrases that you use are amusing at times.
Good.
When you say things are out of whack and stuff like that, it's just okay. So,
do you not say that there in the UK? You don't describe something as being out of whack?
Some people do, but
some people
it's something that we're picking up on because of how things are, Americanisms are picked up over here and vice versa.
Yeah.
But it's not that common, but
Okay.
common enough to know what you mean.
Well,
Yeah.
for the record, some of the expressions you all have amuse me a lot too.
Great.
Yeah, it's fun.
Okay. So why did I say air? For the emotion. The reason why I put those two together was because of how emotion can connect to so many things so quickly, and how air is very good for communicating, as in words and stuff. So that's why I thought that air and emotion came, why they paired up.
Okay.
That was the thinking behind it.
All right. So finish them out then.
Yeah.
Finish them out. You said emotion is air, right? Okay, emotion is air.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got that one. What's water to you?
I'll tell you what, I've got a big resistance in me saying I don't want to try to detect this, because I know that if emotion isn't air, everything else that is going to be put in is together is complete and utter bull. So
yeah. Again, going back to this, don't worry.
it's not
Don't worry
for-
about being right or wrong. Okay.
no, it wasn't
Doesn't
that.
matter.
It was just a part of me says, hang on, what's the point in trying to do something that you know is wrong? Yeah.
Because it gets you moving. That's the
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
If you're working it, right? Then you can
Right.
come back and if something doesn't fit, you'd be like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe emotion isn't air.
All right. Okay. So earth, air, fire, water. I've currently got emotion is there, which sorry. My inner hecklefish is going, what are we doing this for? It's wrong. But so let me just okay, so moving and come on,
Thinking.
that's it. Right. So what I did was to say, right, okay.
Process of elimination. Okay.
It's just no. It's not a process of elimination. It's like with the earth, air, fire, and water, based on thinking that emotion is air. Where would you put those other three?
Sure.
I've got earth as thinking, fire as
Hold
moving,
on. Slow down. So thinking.
is earth.
Okay.
Fire is moving.
Okay.
Water is instinct.
And instincts, the water.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you feel like that's correct? That thinking is earth?
This
Now
was
I know because you were constrained by having to accept your initial conjecture that emotion was air.
Yeah.
Would you now change your mind?
I'm changing it from the fact that it's been said that it's wrong.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is great. This is right. Because I'm having to push past various things that I can feel going on inside me.
Good.
Also aware there are 2 people here going, I'm glad he's running the off feet and not me. Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't a cop out, but I'm sitting here going, I haven't got a bloody clue.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, I have not got a clue how to know what goes with what. Anything that I say at this point in time, it will be total guesswork, conjecture,
Speculation. Yeah.
speculation. That's it. Yeah, speculation. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm going to go off camera for a second and grab something
Okay.
to clean this up. Okay.
Right. I'll grab me tea.
So what I'll do, this is going to give you,
This is our own work for the week, innit?
this will give you a really big clue into how to develop. All right. Based on the elements. I'm going to give you the order, and then you work out what to do next. All right. Does that sound fair? I don't want to give it all the way, but yeah, you need a little nudge in the right direction. Fire, moving center. The moving center goes with fire. Okay. You were right, by the way. I think you had said that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. The moving center, well, fire, there's different forms of fire, isn't there? There's oxidation, for example. If you leave a nail outside in wet conditions, right? Find I guess I said that because I found some outside yesterday. It's been rainy here and whatnot, getting ready for spring, and I found this little pack of nails that had been left outside, not by me, but by somebody, and they got all rusty. And that's actually an example of how air and water created fire. Interestingly enough, oxidation is a form of fire. It's just slow. An explosion is also a form of fire, right? And so you can take some views of your moving center life from that standpoint and say that it should be a regulated fire. Yeah, because you don't want to be a couch potato. Is that a good expression? Another American expression? Yeah. Couch potato, right? Someone who just sits on the couch and just does nothing all day long. It will have an effect on your other centers if you do. We can work into how that happens next. But you want your moving center to be a regulated fire, right? Moving you around. I mean, that's why it's called the moving center. Nature of fire is to move, isn't it? Emotions is earth. Earth. In other words, you want your emotional life to be steadfast, stable, connected, nurturing of other possibilities and opportunities. Yeah. You want it to have that solidity to it, your emotions. This is where words like steadfast, steady, continuity come into it. All right. That's the emotional life. Instinctive life, water for instinctive life. Regulating is the words that go with that. I think you got that one right too, didn't you, Mark?
Yeah.
Regulating, right? The nature of water is to be able to adapt to things. A good example is if you have a hard time adapting to new situations, for example, you need to become a bit more like water. Yeah, you need to be able to have that ability to be contained in something, to be able to take on the shape of something else as the need fits, as the need requires. That's actually an instinctive response. When the instincts are out of whack, comes something like paranoia. There you go. Out of whack. Becomes something like paranoia. right? You get a little too much fire in the instinct, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, watching out for every sharp corner, and you have that kind of tension about you. It's much more of a fire in something that should be water, you see?
Mm.
And thinking like air. Transparent, no boundaries, completely adaptable, completely expansive. This is how your thinking process should be able to go on. Air doesn't judge. It just passes information from one point to another. I look across the room and I see, a chair. I don't see it colored by anything in the air. The air doesn't distort it. That's the thinking process. Should be very clear in that regard. These are how to go on about it. Yeah. And so the idea here is to get to the middle, to get to the center of it. This is where you want to live, where you've got, or you could live out here, I suppose. Just depends on how big your circle is. If you want to enclose this whole square in a circle, it's no different than striving for the circle in the middle. But the idea of development to the point where you're man number 4, which we've discussed in other contexts, man number 4 is balanced man. He has these centers in balance with one another. Now, you've heard me say in the past that there's no point in talking about the sexual center because most people don't even have one to begin with. The reason why is because it appears here. The possibility for it, I'm not talking about procreation or even just the desire to have sex, which is instinctive or emotional instinctive. But the true function and role of the sexual center manifests itself here in the middle or in the perimeter, however you want to think of that circle. It's the balance of it. Now, in Taoism, which is Chinese, they put, I've drawn a pentagram here because they look at it the same but different. All right. They put it here and they call it wood. All right, here, let's put the names to it. So you've got fire, as far as the pentagram goes, earth, air, water, and they call that wood. Now, the reason why they have taken that center that we have in the four elements, see, in alchemy, they actually do call it the prima materia, the prime matter, the first matter. In that, the emerald tablets that we read before, the one thing that they're talking about is that. The reason why they call it wood is because they look at wood as being life, as being the balance of all of those other 4 forces coming together in just the right proportions. Even if you cut a piece of wood in half, you'll notice that not only does it grow linearly, grows upward, doesn't it? But it also grows in a spiral, it grows rings. So it's got that male aspect, that rod, and the cup aspect to it. It's the perfect balance of both of those. This is the mystery of why they call it wood.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just another way of looking at it. But now you can look at it from this standpoint. They have what's called the destructive cycle. For example, fire destroys air. Fire consumes air in the process. Air destroys wood. Wood destroys, we'll get into that. This actually is very changeable. Sometimes they call it void as well. Sometimes they call this metal, by the way, instead of air, because they're going after the principles. One important thing to keep in mind is this, that this idea of as above, so below doesn't mean that there's an exact correspondence. The symbol can never be the whole. Yeah, it's a symbol is always an aspect of something greater.
Yes, that makes
You
sense.
understand that, right?
Yeah.
It symbolizes an
It can't be
aspect.
exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be, as you say, an aspect of it.
Yeah. People who don't understand this get stuck forever on this. They don't see how like air and metal can be interchangeable. It's not that air and metal are interchangeable. It's just that in some contexts, that force that represents either air or metal is better suited to be described another way, has a different symbol. Yeah? You
Yeah.
can think of metal chopping down a tree as an axe, right? You can also think of it, though, that air, in other words, if you want to put it into the context of oxygen, oxygen would smother a tree, it would die, because they breathe carbon dioxide, don't they? You see, so air can also destroy that life aspect. Wood destroys earth through breaking it up, right? The wood, the roots go through and they kind of like take away its true nature, which is that stability. They break it up. Earth destroys water by taking away its true nature, which is to flow. It becomes mud, it becomes less fluid, or it becomes, clumpy clay, if you will. And water destroys fire by taking away its prime nature, extinguishing its light, its movement, you see. I won't dwell on this, but I do want you to consider something. We said fire is which center? Moving center, right? And
Yeah.
air is thinking. We'll say moving.
Yeah.
Too much moving destroys your ability to think. When
Yes.
you
Because
go
it's-
to exhaustion,
Yeah.
you go to the point of exhaustion, you're moving, and someone asks you a simple question, you no longer have the ability to think about it. You can't, it destroys that. It takes away that ability. Thinking, too much thinking destroys your creativity, destroys wood, destroys sexuality. Yeah, destroys that creative aspect of it. You overthink things, you become less creative. Too much creativity destroys your emotion. Too much in that. Even too much sex, if you want to talk about it from a physical standpoint, right? You have too much sex in your life, and it actually takes away from your ability to stay stable, connected, and having that emotional life. Balance in all things. Too much emotion destroys the instinct, right? Take an example of extreme fight or flight, or an area of your life where you need to be able to instinctively respond. If you're emotionally invested in something, you're all over the place. You're a basket case or whatever. You know what I mean, right? Overly emotional. Yeah. It robs you of your instinctive ability to be able to respond as needed. Yeah. Too much instinct, in other words, like fear, for example, makes you unable to move. Right? You're locked in fear. You can't even move. You can't move when needed, right? Something that the moving center needs to do. You become frozen. Takes away that. So that's the destructive cycle following the pentagram as you would draw it, that 5-pointed star. The creative cycle that they talk about is fire becomes earth. When fire is done, when it's extinguished, it becomes ash, right? It turns into earth. That's what remains of it. Earth becomes air. No, it doesn't. It becomes metal, right? It has that more compacted aspect to it. I'll let you work out the rest of them. Air becoming water. You can think of it like seeding the clouds. Water becoming wood, being the nourishment for the wood, and wood becoming fire, being the fuel of the fire. But I'll let you work out the aspects of the 5 centers of how those one precipitates the next, and so on and so forth. So 2 different ways of looking at the same thing.
Yep.
Doesn't this give you huge, huge, huge clues on what it means to be in a personal development journey? Right? This is a tool. These are like instructions. If you can get into the nature of those, you know what to correct in yourself. You know what needs work. You know how to get to the center. What you need to do to get to the center. You don't need further instruction. It's all right there. That's how to become man number 4. Everything you need to know about it. All right. Happy with this?
Yeah, very.
All right, let's turn the camera over to the other board. Is that visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a really bad angle, isn't it?
Yeah.
3 other aspects that will help you with understanding alchemy as we're going to go through it. Salt is a circle with a line through it symbolically. Sulfur is a triangle with a cross underneath it. All right, this one. Cross underneath, triangle on top. And Mercury, you probably know the astrological symbol for Mercury. It's the horned circle with the cross underneath. All right. These 3 things are very important. They have to do with the law of 3. Together, I think you probably already suspected that it forms the law of 7. There are a lot of ways to look at salt, sulfur, and mercury. Generally speaking, salt is the fixed, the immutable aspect of something. Take the example of burning a piece of wood. We'll use that. All right. Salt would be the ashes that remain afterwards. It wasn't consumed. It was the stable part of it that can't be destroyed. All right. In terms of the human complex, it's the body itself. It's the bone structure. It's the frame. It doesn't change from. I mean, we get older and stuff. I don't mean that way. Again, symbol versus reality. But do you understand? It's the body in this context. Sulfur would be that which is burned. In the example of the burning a chunk of wood, it would be the wood itself, that which is consumed. In the human complex, it would be your soul. Now, there's a very interesting thing to think about. Have you ever considered the idea that as you live your life, it's your soul that gets consumed? You're burning through your soul as you live your life. Interesting thing to think about.
That.
The fuel. It's the fuel. All right. It's your soul. Give you a location on what we're talking about. We talked about the 5 centers. Now let's talk about, the 3 main components there. In the wood analogy, it's the wood itself. It's the part that's being used up. Okay. The mercury is the volatile aspect of something. In the case of the wood, it would be the light and the heat that's produced. It would be the smoke and the various other vapors that are produced when you burn it. In the case of the body, it would be the spirit, likened to the spirit. So you can see something here interesting. Take the idea of burning a piece of wood with this in mind and contrast it with living a life. You're given a body. Right? It's kind of wrapped up inside this. This is the fixed salt. From dust you are, and to dust you will return, would be the line that goes with that. The sulfur is the soul that gets put in. This is the fuel. And you burn through this life and produce spirit. Produce light, heat, smoke, vapor, essence, connection, understanding, attendance, presence. All of these sorts of things would be the spiritual mercurial aspect to it. Interesting way of looking at why we're alive, why we need these different things. And again, in some respects, it's not fair to say you should look at it this way, that the spirit was in there the whole time. And if you're burning the wood, the mercury was in there, but it needed the process of being burned. In other words, using it to release it into its true form. Same thing with life. You need a body, you need a soul to kind of produce the vapor of what your life is, I should say. What's trapped in there? What is you, essentially? Okay?
Yeah, the way of describing that the soul is used up in a life. There's a part of me that thinks, is that an accurate description, or is it a metaphorical description? Because
Well, the soul comes from the planet herself and her brothers and sisters. So
Yeah.
your soul has this unique little ingredient, much different than Hana's, much different than Sam's, much different than Enzi's and Pleiades and me.
Yeah.
All right? Has to do with those exact ingredients that were basically at your time of conception, but were added to on your birth. First breath also has something to do with it. Okay. But
Right.
that part does actually go back. Everything returns to the source of its arising. So it goes back, but it goes back differently.
So it's not consumed in the way of a destruction. It's consumed in the way of things being added to it, and then
It's like
goes
this,
back
Mark.
to where it
It's
was.
the difference between a piece of wood that never gets burned and a piece of wood that does.
Right.
A piece of wood that never gets burned. I mean,
Stays a piece of
other than the fact that it's going to rot eventually, right? We'll skip that part, analogy, right? But it is not a, let's say it this way from a human perspective. It's not serving a cosmic purpose.
Yeah.
It's not being used to light, to bring more light into the universe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Same thing with a life. A life can be stagnant, can be a piece of wood that eventually decays, or it can be a piece of wood on fire that brightens up the universe.
Right. Yeah. That makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Analogies. Yeah.
Yeah.
They do only go so far. It's really good to know when to see its limits, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll end up in arguments with people.
That's
said
where I could see was a potential result of not taking that understanding a bit further. Yeah.
Things can only go so far because
Yeah.
again, we live in a reflection of what the universe actually is, what the universe is
Yeah.
like. It's a reflection of it. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like I talked to Sam about in the beginning about the limits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So please, over the coming week, play with this
Yeah.
symbol. Get to the point in yourself where you can draw it out without having to reference your notes. Did it do it again? No. Okay, good. Yeah, see if you can get to the point where you can draw it out without having to use your notes and make it a part of you. Begin to look
Yeah.
at things in your life and say, okay, this, just take something, anything in your house or in your environment, and begin to see if you can put it into the category of the 4 elements, or hot, cold, wet, dry, air, earth, water, fire, wood, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
See what you can do with it. What I'm actually suggesting is that you just get on the frequency of it. And it is you. Look, take martial arts, for instance. Mark, I know you've got some experience there. I certainly do as well. Huh?
Wait, what was that?
Martial arts. Martial
Oh,
arts.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, martial arts. Stances, stance work, earth, wouldn't it? Breathing.
Yep.
Breathing would be the air aspect to it. Very important in martial arts. Defense, water. Attack, fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, it's all there. And so, and if you take this from the example of someone, in a martial arts tournament, if you're up against an air type of fighter and you want to consume him, then you fire it, don't you? You go fire. You go Shingi on him. Yeah. Wing Chun has that aspect to it, right? 100 punches in a second or something like that. Yeah. You understand? You can apply it to everything. It fits everywhere. And it will get you out of the idea of, well, I don't see how anything in my life is like this fire. Right? It'll get you out of that. It was just, they didn't have better words for it. It's the essence behind it. Okay? Too much air, out of balance, just put the candle out. As I was walking across the room. Anyway, does this help? Is this opening up? You can get on the frequency of alchemy, what it's really about, not this kind of like stick a silver dollar in your mouth and stick your big toe in a jar of mercury and roasting cinnabar in your lab or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Good. Wonderful. Anything else?
You say? Come on.
No, there's a lot to take in.
Yeah, sure. NZ, anything helpful?
Yeah, it's a lot of things to work during the week, but it's good. It's good. I didn't catch what was the origin of this pentagrammic flow. You mentioned it, but I couldn't write it down.
The origin of what?
This pentagram, like
Taoism.
Taoism. Okay.
Taoism. It's spelled with a T,
Mm.
but it's pronounced with a D sound. But Taoism. Yeah. And that prima materia would just be the Tao, if you want to follow that. I mean, they all had the same idea, didn't they?
Yeah.
Truth is truth. That's the thing. Truth gets coded into language and culture and this sort of thing. But if you've discovered a truth, I mean, imagine calling your Chinese friend on the phone. Is math the same there as it is for you, right? Or as it is for me? Does 1 + 1 really equal 2, right? And they'd say, "Hui," right? Yeah, they'd say, "E plus E equals er." They'd say that, wouldn't they? They're using a different word, 1 + 1 = 2, but it still means the same thing. Okay. Now you're going to go look me up, see if I did the Chinese numbers right. Is it really E and er? It is. Anyway, doesn't matter. All right. Have a great weekend. And yeah, just dwell in this. That's all I can ask. Come back with questions next week, and we'll just go a little bit deeper into it each time. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
I will ponder to keep making these available for you. Okay.
You're gonna do it. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Thank you,
brilliant.
Chris.
Yeah.
Bye for now. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank
See
you.
you.
See you
See you.
tomorrow.
Bye.